Yo, what's up everybody, Fortnitron here, and today we're going to be going over my review for Dragon's Dogma 2. So let's get into it. So just a disclaimer before we get started, I just want to say that I'm playing this game on PC. Although I'm not a huge fan of microtransactions, I do understand that I am semi-supporting them by buying this game right at launch. I do also agree that they suck and I'm not a huge fan, but I am aware of the juxtaposition that I am in by buying this game. For story, I gave Dragon's Dogma 14 out of 20. I thought the intro and the cutscenes were good. The world building was like pretty okay, but the overall story kind of just fell short for me. I didn't really feel compelled throughout the game about the main plot line that was going on. And some of the side quests were interesting, but like nothing really gripped me in this game. So that was kind of a drawback for me. Graphics, I give this game a 17 out of 20. The character models look great. The environments are stunning in this game. Just really reminded me of like moments in Lord of the Rings, like when you're running across Rohan. I don't know, there's just some really cool moments. You're just trekking across country with your pawns and it just like, I don't know, it's got a real sense of adventure and I really appreciated that. The special effects in this game look awesome, like with the different mage effects, like the different particle effects that some of the enemies have, and the animations look fluent for the most part. Nothing really stood out for the graphics, but the game definitely does look nice. Audio, I give it a 15 out of 20. The ambience in this game, there's a lot of open field moments. You're going to be spending most of your time out in the open field. The open field music is pretty good, kind of keeps you driving forward. The boss music in this game is really awesome, but it does tend to get repetitive, as is the same boss music for a lot of the lower tier bosses. And then later in the game, when you play some higher tier bosses, it does change up a bit, but it is super epic. It can get a bit repetitive though. And the sound design in this game, really amazing. I highly recommend you play this game with headphones because there are day-night cycles, and at night it can really get scary when you're running through and you've got things chasing you in the dark. The variety is where I gave this a lower score. Like I mentioned earlier with the boss music, some stuff tends to get a little bit repetitive and you just left wanting a little bit more variety in the audio design. I also want to mention that the voice acting is superb in this game. I don't know what it is about voice actors from the UK. They just have such a handle on dialogue and they just make everything that much better. Gameplay, I gave this a 31 out of 40. The controls felt really good. I could see how they might be a little bit cumbersome for some, but I really like that you just have two main attack buttons and then you also can hold L1 or the left bumper, and then that enables your special attacks. And I also really appreciated that special attacks don't have a cooldown. It's just dependent on your stamina levels, so that was really good. The mechanics in this game are awesome. I really love like all the things that you can incorporate with your pawns. So having like a really well drawn out team of pawns with like different attributes really gives you an advantage in this game, and you can just really flex their strengths against different enemies, whether it's with magic attacks or like having a ranged character or having somebody that does really high DPS or somebody that does really slow tank attacks. The pacing in this game was really good. I appreciate it. I know a lot of people are going to gripe against how often you have to be like walking out in the field or running out in the open field, and that can get tedious, but there are things that you could use to your advantage because fast travel doesn't really open up until much later in the game. But there are things like ox carts. If you just plan out your trips appropriately and you just stay out during the daytime and never go out during at night, you will seldom run into issues. So it just takes a little bit more of a methodical approach, but I could definitely see if you don't do that, how this game can be a really big chore from all the running around or just not knowing how that system works. The UI and UE is really clean in this game. I really appreciate like the kind of like subtle minimalistic touch that they have. I do have some gripes with it though. So opening up the map, I find if you're in a town, it'll open up directly to the town map, but if you want the world map, you have to press circle or the B button to go from the town map to the open world map, and I kind of wish it was the opposite. So you just had a dedicated map button, which would be like the center button or like the share button on an Xbox controller. Then when you're in a town, you just press X or something on it, and then it would go to the town map. But just little UI gripes like that. But other than that, it's really clean and really easy to navigate. Boss quality, I think the bosses are awesome in this game. A lot of the basic field bosses, they're a lot of fun to encounter, and some of them are like even pretty creepy. They do give you the element of surprise. I really enjoyed my fights with the bosses, but they are repeated and they kind of just get reskins later on, so it is a little bit of a letdown that there isn't a little bit more boss variety, which is also why I gave the enemy variety score a little bit lower, because you're kind of fighting the same 4 enemy mobs, so just like goblins, lizards, harpies, and then also some wolves or dogs, and that does get tedious over time. So I kind of wish that there's a little bit more variety for basic enemies, and then also just like lower tier bosses or like the mini bosses. Gameplay variety, I gave it a pretty high score. This game is great. Like I really enjoy games where you just get to play and the game doesn't really hold your hand, and Dragon's Dogma 2 definitely does not hold your hand whatsoever. I could see people who maybe get a little bit fatigued of just fighting enemies or mini bosses out in the open field. For those players, I'd recommend going back to the towns and doing a lot of the side content that's available by talking to NPCs. There are a ton of NPC quest lines in this game. You can even romance a couple of the NPCs if you're into that. I just think there's a lot of variety when it comes to gameplay in Dragon's Dogma 2. Replayability, I give it a really high score because all the vocations are a lot of fun, so definitely trying them out is just a joy to do. And in Dragon's Dogma 2, the new game plus cycles don't scale the enemies or the bosses, so it's just the same as your first playthrough. So when you finish your first playthrough, you could start with all of your equipment in your second playthrough. So it really encourages players to do multiple playthroughs, try different vocations, and just have fun with it. For bonus points, I gave them 0 out of 3. The reason why is because this game launched at a really crappy state. It runs brutal on PC, and it also runs pretty brutal on consoles as well. They did just recently have an update for it, but it didn't resolve that many issues. It resolved the starting a new game and a few other minor things, but the game still has issues with crashing, and then also just the performance issues are just kind of unacceptable in this day and age, which is kind of a shame. And also this game has really very bare minimal accessibility options, so no audio stuff, just bare captions, and that's pretty much it. So no bonus points there. I do want to talk about Dragon's Dogma 2 and the performance issues that it's currently seeing. So I have a pretty high-end PC that I'm running it on, and I was able to get like 100 FPS out in the open field, and then 50 to 60 in towns due to the AI issues and how much it taxes your CPU. But I also suffered a lot of crashes while playing this game. And the game is a ton of fun, and I still wanted to boot it up and keep playing, but it was a real turn off. So I definitely wouldn't recommend this game right away to a lot of you. I would say wait for a few more stability updates before I'd maybe pick this up. Overall, I gave this game a 77 out of 100. It's still a great game and has a lot of cool things going for it. I just wish it launched in a bit of a better state.